Alright, before we get into this video, quick disclaimer. If you're like offended at Christianity, you shouldn't, if like easily offended, you shouldn't watch this. Kind of die on this guy for reading the Bible. It's funny. I'm Christian, so I think it's fine. But enjoy the video.
Right? And you're going to look at that and say, it's the trash. English is the second language? What is the trash? But if I pointed at the dumpster and said, that's the trash, would I be wrong?
No. Yeah, you would actually.
Of course not. It makes perfect sense to just call them both trash because the wastebasket in your kitchen and the big metal dumpster have so much in common. They're a place where refuse goes after you're getting rid of it. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Now, so it's not odd at all that the word hell would be used to describe both places.
It's actually kind of weird.
It's the same concept in both places, just like the trash is the same concept. It's in the house, or at the curb, or even at the landfill, the outer darkness of disposal. So the point is, trash is trash, hell is hell, bottomless pit, lake of fire, they're both hell, they're both fiery torment, and it goes on forever. And here's the thing, the trash bag, when you throw it into the dumpster, it doesn't stop being a trash bag. It doesn't cease to exist.
This might be how I treat Catholic, bro.
Well, hell, like this trash bag that basically it's like God basically takes hell from the center of earth and like ties those straps at the hefty cinch sack. You know, he pulls on the cords of the cinch sack of hell and then casts it into the big dumpster called the lake of fire. He takes out the trash, but it's still they're still in that sack. Because it's a hefty cinch sack. It's so tough. Nothing can break through it. You know, this message has been brought to you by hefty trash bags. So, both of them are hell. Does everybody understand that?
You haven't gotten this far?
No,
and it's just getting relocated from the one location to the other. Now, here's an objection that somebody came up with to this. Well, they said, well, here's why this, doesn't make sense to me. They said, you see the false prophet and the Antichrist getting cast into the lake of fire before hell gets cast into the lake of fire. So how can that be? Okay, well, here's the thing. It'd be like if you threw a couple of pieces of trash in the dumpster without putting them in a bag first. What's the big deal?
Why is there people?
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you didn't know it didn't go in the trash because it wasn't put in a hefty sack first.
Yeah, he did.
It's like basically the false prophet and the Antichrist are just two pieces of trash that just get tossed freely into the dumpster. We've all done it. Okay.
Phase priest.
That's a CSGO major, man. Yes, sir.
CSGO major. Read the Bible.
That's right.
Right? They're both the trash. They're both hell. Okay, so I think that's a total nothing of an objection because it doesn't change anything. It's just two fiery torment locations that we both label as hell in our English language.
Okay, I made a bulldog.
Language is great, and it's second to none. So, I make no apology for the way that these terms because I think it works out great. So, okay, the next thing I want to point out. So we've talked about a couple things. Number one, we talked about the fact that there are two locations for hell. We understand those locations. Number two, we talked about the fact that both of those locations are explicitly called hell in the Bible. We proved that. But number three, I want to show you that the lake of fire specifically is the second death. And that the current location of hell is what the Bible would call the first death. It doesn't use that term first death.
This guy.
Oh my god, why did I take so many shots?
Oh my god, I flipped it, dude.
Yes, sir.
Death it's specifically referring to. But first of all, let me show you that hell right now is known as death. It is the place of the dead. It's where the dead go.
Is he done? That was actually kind of funny.
Would be one way to define it. Now you say, well, everybody dies. But here's the thing. Jesus said, if a man keep my saying, he shall not see death.
I really need to know this stuff.
He said, whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. And remember, the Jews flipped out when he said that. And they're like, well, Abraham, our father's dead. Are you better than Abraham? Who makest thou thyself?
He's so enthusiastic.
And he said, Abraham rejoiced to see my day and was glad.
Dude, this
He
guy's
said,
on
Abraham, I'm the God of
something,
Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God's not the God of the dead, but of the living.
Amen.
So Jesus consistently taught, no, Abraham's not dead. Abraham's alive. Isaac's alive.
Amen.
Jacob's alive. Here's the thing.
Bro, I bet he got his mic
If you
from the lake.
physically die, the Bible doesn't
God,
classify you as dead. You're still living. Because when I physically
below.
die, my soul goes to heaven.
The Buddha mic.
I'm alive. I'm alive in
Boogie
heaven.
for
I
God.
have eternal life, never-ending life. Therefore, I'm never going to die. Only this physical body will die, which at that point is just a shell that doesn't matter. Right? When I physically die, it's just a shell.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
the
really
nut
right,
is
dude.
inside. And I will go straight to heaven. My soul is there.
He's just
And
back
so
to
I'm
it.
alive. So is Abraham alive right now or is he dead? Alive.
He's alive.
Physically he's dead. Okay, well no, Abraham's alive. We witnesses in heaven that are all
so
alive
bad.
and so forth. And Jesus
Mic,
taught
bro.
that.
It's
So
bad.
hell is the place of the dead. Heaven is a place of life. Does everybody see that? So look down
No,
at your
nobody
Bible there in
sees that.
Ezekiel chapter
Honestly.
31, verse
Okay,
14.
CSGO.
And this is kind of a cryptic passage. It's like a parable where he's calling these great kings and kingdoms trees. So sort of like Nebuchadnezzar was compared to a great big king. Other great kings and kingdoms refer to trees.
This
He
guy.
said, in the end, none of all the trees
Holy, what is going
exalt
on?
themselves for their height,
Your
neither
mic,
shoot up their top
Jesus.
among the thick boughs, neither their trees stand up in their height, all that
Hey,
drink
bring
water,
your mic
for they're
behind
all
this.
delivered
Oh
unto
my God.
death to the nether parts of the earth. Nether means lower. In the midst of the children of men, with them that go down to the pit.
How do you look
So
at
notice,
this,
they're all delivered unto death to the nether parts of the earth, down to the pit. So notice three names here. We got lower parts of the earth, death, and the pit. Look at verse 16. I made the nations to shake at the sound of his fall when I cast him down to hell with them that descend into the pit. All the trees of Eden, the choice and best of Lebanon, all that drink water shall be comforted in the
moment I
nether
hear
parts
when
of the
I,
earth.
window in
They
is
also went down
Lebanon.
into hell with him, unto them that be slain
Ew,
with the
twist that
sword,
straw's cracked.
and they that were his arm that dwelt under the shadow, under his shadow in the midst of the heathen. Now, some people try to twist this where it says they'll be comforted in the lower parts. If you get the context, they're comforted because they're like, oh, it makes me feel better that you're down here too. That's the context, because it's talking about people in hell seeing these other mighty people cast down to hell. Sort of like where they look at the devil being cast in hell and say, oh, wow, you too, huh? In the book of Ezekiel chapter 28. That's what that's talking about. It's just
How far into the
it's
Bible
a
is
parable,
he, bro?
you know, so you gotta be
How
careful
far?
with just running.
Oh,
Bro,
he
let me
stopped.
read-
He stopped.
Did he?
Yeah. Oh, he died. I'm alive.
Oh.
Oh, peace and quiet, dude. Are you dead yet or no?
No.
You're still alive, so you stop that.
I know he's down there.
Got him.
Nice. My aim with the op is not that good. Alright, ready guys? Ready to hear this?
Yes, sir.
3,
3,
2.
Down
name you can
to
use.
death is going down to hell. So basically, the place
This is
hell is
amazing,
also
bro.
known as
Amazing.
death, which makes sense because that's where dead people go. That's where the dead are located. They're located in hell.
Homie's mic sounds like he's on
That's
Zoom
why it
with
says
really
in
high
Revelation
ping.
20:14, and death and hell
he probably
were
got,
cast
like-
into the lake of
like
fire.
$1
How could that be
dude.
if
It's worse than
death
5 and below.
place when it
Look at
says
the Booger Box, it'd be
death
like
and
10
hell
times better.
delivered up death
Oh, that's a Molotov.
and hell. People are cast out or brought out from death and hell and cast into the lake of fire. Death is cast into the lake of fire. So there's something tangible here. So this place can be referred to as the chambers of death, the place of the dead, or just death. Okay, that makes sense. Now, when we read chapter 20, verse 14, it says, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death.
Has homie ever
Now,
taken a single
read
breath?
that first.
No.
There's two different ways that you
My
can take
God.
this. There's two different ways you can interpret this.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm
Death
better.
and hell were cast in the lake of fire. This is the second death. So what is the this referring to?
It's
Either
this.
number
That's
one,
referred to this.
this is referring to the event
This mic is eyes,
when
bro.
death and hell are cast into the lake of fire, that event is called the
Garbage.
second death.
Peanut butter
Or
like
number
$1 per
two, you can interpret interpreted as the lake of fire is the second death, right? Because that's the noun that's right there as the antecedent for that pronoun. Death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, meaning that the lake of fire is the second death. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no doubt about which of these interpretations is true. It's for sure the second interpretation, that the lake of fire is the second death, because if we look at chapter 21, verse 8, it's impossible to misunderstand. Look at chapter 21, verse 8. We're not talking about the event here. We're talking about the place. It says, but the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable, we're in chapter 21, verse 8, and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So the Bible is clearly telling us that it is the lake of fire, which is the second death.
God playing D&D.
The event is not in view here. Go to Revelation chapter 14. Why is this important? Why does this matter? Because of the fact that, again, your Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, false teachers will say, oh, well, the second death is when hell ceases to exist. Second death is annihilation. Wrong, my friend. The second death is a place.
Right.
The lake of fire is the second death. Yeah. So what's the first death? It's the first location of hell and the second location of hell. First location of the dead.
Sounds like the guy at Waco.
The dead. First death, second death. So here's a lot of people. That's hell. Here's the thing about that. The second death is not referring to hell in general, as some people will mistakenly think that the second death is hell in general. No, because it's specifically only referring to the lake of fire as the second death. Because I would say that the current location of hell would be the first death. I wouldn't call that the second death. Some people have this idea, oh, you die physically, that's the first death. You know, hell is the second death. And you know, it sounds great. It's just not what the Bible.
Yeah, bro.
I'm not saying teachers are bad. Physical death, hell's second death, because you know what they're saying is essentially true, that you know you die physically.
Well, you might know what they're saying, but I have no clue what Homeboy's saying, bro.
That's not what the Bible means when it says the second death. The second death is a specific place.
Then what does second death mean?
And it's not just hell in general, but rather it is specifically the lake of fire, which is also called hell. So, you know, you just got to be careful that you don't misunderstand these things.
The homie's like backtracking
that basically, yes, the lake of fire is the second death, and the lake of fire is called hell, but I personally wouldn't just refer to hell in general as the second death.
Then what would you refer to?
And again, if people do, that's fine, because, you know, this isn't really a big deal, but, you know, we want to understand, right? And, you know, especially as independent Baptists, we're supposed to be these hellfire and damnation guys. You know, we're supposed to get this, right? I mean, if there's one thing we should know well,
Jesus Christ,
we should understand hell. I mean, you know, a Baptist preacher who doesn't understand hell, is he even a Baptist? Is he even fundamental? Because this is supposed to be a real big subject for us. This is what we're known for, you know. So therefore, we better know it like the back of our hand and understand it
CSGO?
and comprehend it. So look, if somebody is a little off where they say, oh, you know, second death is just hell in general, or you know, first death, second death, physical death, whatever. No big deal. But you know what I do have a really big problem with? A Baptist preacher getting up and saying, hell's not eternal. Hell's not forever. You know, because he's like, well, that's only the lake of fire is forever. You're an idiot.
Yeah, that's right.
What kind of an idiot gets up in a Baptist church behind a pulpit and says hell isn't eternal? Hell isn't going on.
Wait, idiot play CSGO.
What he meant. Well, you know what? No matter what he meant, it's false. Because there's any way you slice that statement, hell's not forever, hell's not eternal, people get out of hell. You know, any way you slice that, that's false. And by the way, you know, if I basically took the trash out of the waste can in the kitchen and threw it into the dumpster, would you call that stuff getting out of the trash? People get out of hell. No, they don't. Okay, look at this. Would you call it getting out of hell? Because you transport from hell to another.
Oh my god, bro, you're Mike.
Right? Because hell's like jail, and lake of fire is like prison. If you think about it, right? Think about that analogy. That's actually a great analogy, right? Hell, you know, the bottomless pit side of hell is the jail cell. The lake of fire hell is the penitentiary or the prison. But here's the thing, you know what? You could both just call it, he's in jail. Don't people say that all the time? I was in jail for 10 years. No, you weren't. You were in prison, all right? Nobody sits in the county lockup for 10 years or whatever. But the point is, isn't that being kind of pedantic at that point? Just like you can call both places hell,
nutty,
you can call, prison jail. You could call it a jailbreak. You could call him a jailbird. You could call him a jailer, whatever.
Bro,
prison guard, whatever.
Title,
the point is, even though these are technically two different places, they're both labeled often. The Hooskow. Who knows that term? No one. 5 people. All right, you work in the Hooskow, so you should know, right? You've heard that term, right? The joint.
Yeah.
You know? So the point is, the big house. The point is, though, that you would you call that getting out of jail?
How do you get the most people?
Oh, my uncle just got out of jail. He was moved from one jail to another. Is that getting out? It's dumb. And hell is the lake of fire anyway, because of the fact that the lake of fire is called hell over and over again. So to sit there and say, well, hell isn't eternal, hell isn't forever. You know, what kind of garbage are you teaching your people? What kind of confusing statement is that to make? Especially because, you know what? I know that when I preach, I wish everybody were just listening to everything I'm saying and just hanging on every word, but I just know that isn't true. Because a lot of people, when they sit in church, what are they doing? They're kind of half listening. And half of their mind is planning lunch right now. And thinking about, every head bowed, every eyes closed. Who would say that's me? You know, God bless you.
I've asked
people
3 of my Catholic
thinking
friends
about something
from
else,
school, and they've all said that.
I don't want my family sitting and listening. Well, forever. Well, people get out. And you say, well, that's not what he meant. It doesn't matter what he meant. It's false. Yeah. Because the Bible calls the lake of fire hell.
So funny.
And he even said, and look, this wasn't just a slip of the tongue. He taught it on Sunday morning, and then he taught it again on...
That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is funny. Didn't mean to offend anyone if you were. Like and subscribe, and see you next video.